the attacks on our Jewish community have become a national emergency. In recent weeks, we've seen multiple attacks against cultural sites and synagogues. The Jewish community has been targeted again and again. As a result, many Jewish people are now tragically considering leaving the UK. When the Shadow Home Secretary visited the community in Golders Green just after the attack on the Atzola ambulances, he was told they feel abandoned by the government. He spoke to a young mother that morning who said she was afraid to send her children to school. Matt Dukes, the Met Police Deputy Commissioner, said this morning that we've seen hate crimes in our communities before, but now what we've got is the prospect of a foreign state actually using that as a mechanism to sow discord and create anxiety in our communities. Harakat Ashab al-Yamin al-Islamiyah, an Islamist militant group with links to Iran, indeed many would say a proxy for Iran, has now claimed responsibility for 5 incidents targeting Jewish sites in London, including the firebombing of the Atzola ambulances in Golders Green and the attempted drone attack on the Israeli embassy. Vicky Evans, the Senior National Coordinator for Counter-Terrorism, told reporters on Sunday, as the conflict in the Middle East continues to evolve, counter-terrorism police and our partners remain alive to the threat of Iranian hostile activity in the UK. How much more Iranian action on our UK soil is needed before the government acts to prescribe the IRGC? In opposition, the Labour Party, including the then Shadow Home Secretary, now the Foreign Secretary, said they would do this. But almost 2 years after winning power, they've done nothing. Many other countries have acted by prescribing the IRGC, including the USA, Canada, New Zealand, Australia, and earlier this year, even the European Union. So why hasn't this government delivered on its election promise to prescribe the IRGC? If emergency legislation is needed, the Minister will have our support to get it rapidly through Parliament. Will he accept our offer now from the dispatch box? If Iran is behind these recent attacks, then large numbers of Iranian diplomats and those suspected of being Iranian spies in the UK must also be immediately expelled, as happened to Russian diplomats and spies after the Salisbury attack. This would send a powerful message and degrade Iran's ability to act on UK soil. But besides foreign-directed attacks, there's been a sickening tidal wave of domestic anti-Semitism as well. As the Leader of the Opposition said, as a black woman in this country, she has never seen the level of racism, discrimination, intimidation and attacks that have been directed at Jewish communities. She said that if people were firebombing black churches the way synagogues have been attacked, people being killed, ambulances being firebombed, there would be a national emergency. This should be considered a national emergency. Anti-Semitism, of course, often goes hand in hand with Islamist extremism, a threat we know all too well. Some 75% of MI5's terrorism caseload relates to Islamist extremism, and 94% of terrorist murders in the last 25 years have been perpetrated by Islamist extremists. Yet only 10% of the prevent caseload is Islamist. When we discussed the Atzola attacks a few weeks ago, the Security Minister said the government are looking at what they can do about what he rightly admitted was the mismatch in prevent caseloads. Can the Minister update the House on the progress he's made since saying that? Madam Deputy Speaker, will the government commit to using counter-terrorist surveillance techniques to disrupt anti-Semitic attacks before they occur? Will the government also commit to deporting any foreign national who expresses extremist views, sympathy for violence or terrorism, anti-Semitism or any other such religious hatred? In October, the Home Secretary said that she was reviewing the use of this power under Section 3 of the Immigration Act 1971 and promised to update the House. But we've heard nothing since. Will the Minister please update the House today? Madam Deputy Speaker, anti-Semitism is a stain on our society. Warm words are no longer enough. Real action is needed.
Madam Deputy Speaker, I'm grateful to him for his response. I hope that he will accept that the response from this government is not about warm words. It is about decisive, targeted, effective activity, and that's what we've seen over the past few days. But let me agree with him in terms of recognising the fear and distress that exists within our Jewish communities. It is abhorrent that members of our Jewish community are considering that their long-term future in the United Kingdom. And collectively, I'm sure that we want to assure them that we will do everything that we possibly can to make sure that the United Kingdom is a safe place for them and their families. But I do recognise the fear and the distress that they are feeling at the moment. And that is why we're making sure that our response is proportionate and urgent in the way that I set out earlier in my remarks. Now, the Shadow Minister entirely reasonably raised the spectre of the threat that we face from Iran. So let me say to him and to the House, and I've made these points previously, but for the purpose of clarification, let me tell him precisely what we're doing to combat the specific threat from Iran. So this government specified Iran under the enhanced tier of the Foreign Influence Registration Scheme, which is a useful operational tool which will bolster our oversight of Iran's influence activities here in the UK. We've sanctioned more than 550 Iranian individuals and entities, including the IRGC in its entirety. And he mentioned prescription. He will know that the government have committed to take forward the recommendations by Jonathan Hall KC, including the creation of a new prescription-like power to help tackle malign activity by state and non-state linked actors. We've also engaged in extensive activity to go after the criminal networks and enablers that the Iranian intelligence services use to carry out their work, as well as targeting those who assist the IRGC and others to launder their money here in the United Kingdom. The role of the police force right around the country is incredibly important in terms of this work, and that is why we've rolled out new training to all frontline police officers to increase their understanding of state threats. And we are strengthening our immigration system against Iranian infiltration, including those who promote Iranian interference in the UK. We're also doing this in concert with our allies, and we are engaging internationally on transnational Iranian threats, including joining with 13 other countries in condemning Iranian intelligence activities, both in the United Kingdom and globally. Now, he mentioned the work that we're doing in Prevent, and I know that he will have seen the Home Secretary confirm the appointment of a new independent Prevent Commissioner, Tim Jakes, to fulfil the role that has been done expertly by Lord Anderson. This is an important role, and we want to work very closely with him to ensure that the Prevent programme is fit for purpose. He will have seen the detail from phase 1 of the Southport inquiry, and will also have seen that the government immediately commissioned phase 2, which will be conducted by Sir Adrian Fulford, and the government has made a commitment to respond in full by the summer. He also made, I think, an entirely reasonable and important point about extremism. The government is doing a lot of work led by, as I said in my earlier remarks, the Secretary of State for MHCLG, but there is a lot of work coordinated across government to target the threats that we face from extremists. This work was set out just recently with the publication of the Protecting What Matters document, and that shows how the government is delivering a fundamental reset of how we counter extremism, ensuring that we have the tools, capabilities and partnership to match the scale and the nature of the threat that we face. I hope he and the House understands the seriousness with which we take this. These should not be matters of cross-party disagreement. We should work together to make sure that our Jewish communities feel safe, and that will be our approach.